I truly feel ecstatic. I feel excited to be a part of the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame because just being here, at all the events that they have this weekend going on, it feels like you're a part of it, and you get to see so many of your idols, you can say, because a lot of the fighters that are being inducted, they're fighters that I looked up to and admired growing up as a kid. And not only that, also, just the fighters that come here to pay respect to the people who are being inducted. Last year I believe they had Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, who, man, when I saw him I was extremely excited. So it definitely is a night to remember, an unforgettable night that I would cherish for the rest of my life, in meeting so many great champions and being able to just to mingle. Sometimes you go to the cocktail party or the gala and you frequently get to say hello to one of the all-time greats. In this occasion, Bernard Hopkins, Chiquita Gonzalez, and Juan Manuel Marquez, so many others. It's a very nice experience. Boxing has always been a difficult, grueling sport, that takes a toll on the body. It takes a lot of physical sacrifice, and by that, and possibly physical punishment sometimes. That's just the sport that we're in. We've learned to accept it. We've learned to fight through the pain, fight through exhaustion. That's where it separates being an all-time great champion to just a regular fighter. But the dangers and the risk of fighters being inside of the ring, they have always been there. We've had a tough year, even better, a tough month. What I mean more specific, a tough month, because we had a couple of our colleagues, meaning fighters, who passed away, and it's truly sad because they passed away, giving it their all inside the ring. No one wishes that upon anyone, any fighter, no matter what sport you're in, to give your life for a sport that you love, but that isn't worth dying for, unfortunately. It's just not. It's very, very sad. It touches me close to my heart because it's a sport that I'm involved in. I'm inside the ring. Some of these fights happen on a TV network that we saw something was going on. We saw something wrong. We saw a lot of punishment being taken in from both fighters in one fight and possibly in the other also. And some weren't televised, but again, we have social media and then we get the news. And it's very, very unfortunate, but I think that it's a problem that has happened throughout the years. It's just now these news outlets are bringing this information directly to us, and it's something that we're paying more attention to. I don't think we should ask ourselves, why is it happening now? I think what we should go back and look at and say, okay, what can we do to stop this? One thing we can have is that should be added after these recent situations would have to be bringing in a doctor every round, making sure that the fighter is coherent, knows where he's at, and is able to respond. If you notice in one fight where, rest in peace, Maxim Dadashev, but it's a fight that I saw, I was a commentator for, but there was rounds where you would see him stumble back to his corner, maybe about 4 rounds. You would see him stumble, and I would ask myself, why is he walking like that? Is he hurt? But that just means that from the first half of the fight and on, he was hurt. Something was wrong with him. And if we would have had a doctor come in every round to just make sure the fighter is aware and coherent of what's going on, where he's at, and that he's responding to the questions that the doctor is asking, maybe we can avoid these situations. Because when something is wrong with the fighter's mentality or mind or just his awareness, he will not respond to a trainer. Maybe, just maybe, if one of these fighters would have had a doctor just checking in on him, waiting for a response back, he would have been able to say, this kid, this fighter is no longer sufficiently aware enough to be in the fight. Let's stop it. And maybe it would have saved a couple of these gentlemen's lives. Definitely, I would definitely agree with you saying that fighters have to be protected from themselves, because our heart, our will to win, our our insight of never knowing how to give up, of not accepting to be giving up at any moment, at any point in time, we just continue to push because there's 12 rounds. Anything can happen with one single punch, okay? And we keep that mentality. So no matter what, we stay in control. We try and stay in control. And if something isn't going our way, we look for one way or another to win a fight, which is why we have so many viewers, we have so many boxing fans in this amazing sport. It's because anything can happen at any given moment, you know, and it's dangerous, but we love this sport as fighters. We love it as spectators. But I think that it's not so much for the fighters to say, it's more for, because we won't say that. We'll say, hey, we're here to fight. But it takes other people to say, let's take care of these warriors who are true entertainers in a tough sport that's very physically demanding. That way we can see more entertainment out of them for a longer period of time. I do feel that fighters are becoming stronger. You know, it just depends how you look at it. It honestly does. We are implementing new tactics, new forms of strength and conditioning that some can say that help us get stronger, you know, help us hit harder, help us be better conditioned. That way in the later rounds, we can continue to hit hard and not get tired after the 7th, 8th round. So some will say, some will accept that fighters now are getting stronger. Others will say, you know what, Joe Louis was strong. You know, it just depends on the mindset of each individual. But I believe that with time, you know, as time goes by, you know, you continue to upgrade, right? We never stay in the same position. We upgrade to something new, and then we always continue to look for the new, innovative way to get stronger, to look better and wiser, and to fight better. Questions like that is where we get results, because automatically that question there of trying to figure out if the gloves will enhance power, you know, or affect the fighter in one way or another, you know, ultimately that's a way of us trying to figure out a way that the gloves can be both protective on one's hands and also protective when it lands a punch on the opponent. So it's a good question, you know, but I would say that we would really have to dissect the issue with each glove and see if there's any type of difference. From a fighter, I mean, I don't see much of a difference. I do know that some gloves are better than others at protecting. So when a fighter uses their defense, you know, some gloves are very good for it, and other gloves are they call them puncher gloves because they have a little, the padding is different. I don't want to say less padding because that's not true. It's just the padding is different. So when the punch connects, it definitely makes a large impact, you know, and it makes sure that the opponent feels it. All the gloves that are being used in each and every fight, you know, are up in the regulations. They are acceptable. It's something that I've always respected the WBC for that same reason, because they've always been aware and finding ways to protect the fighter. And I respect the WBC so much for it, and I thank them so much for it, because it's a sport that's very close to me. And you know, it's very close and dear to my heart, that I appreciate the fact that they go out of their way to look for ways to protect a fighter, you know, on the A side and on the opposite side as well, you know, because I mean, they understand it. The WBC understands it. They understand what this sport demands of the fighter, and they just want to look into the best interest of the fighter, and that's highly, highly respectable.